Welcome guys to LS Plays FM, and today to a brand new experiment video. Now this one today is going to be a little bit different. We're looking at the determination attribute and seeing just how much an effect it actually has on players in Football Manager. Now let's get into today's video and I'll run through exactly how the experiment's going to work, and we'll take a look at all the results that have taken place. Here we are then in Football Manager 2021 for our determination experiment here on FM to see just what impact determination actually has on player growth, most important, and also just in terms of how well players play, their kind of stats and everything along those lines. Now before we get into today's video properly guys, if you do enjoy this experiment, then do make sure to drop a like down onto the video. As I always say, any likes on the end of the video here on the channel massively does help the channel itself out. And if you're looking forward to seeing any more of my content, whether they be any FM21 experiments or many FM21 tactics videos, or of course my Road to Glory series with Kaiser and the Red Devil Revival, then do make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to be notified when any of my content here on YouTube goes live. And also guys, if you're looking forward to seeing any more actual experiments and you want to see anything particular done, then do chuck any ideas you may have for any experiments down into the comments. I am of course going to be doing my 1000 years later video, the follow-up for the 500 years later. It should be coming out in the next couple of weeks. I am nearly there. I'm about 900 years in at the moment. It takes a long old time to simulate, but for this experiment here, the actual determination, let's get into it and I'll explain just what has gone on. So I have created in Football Manager 3 identical players in every single aspect of them except for determination. Now I've made 3 players based on real life former players and kind of based it on how they actually played and arguably their determination, or what would it have been in Football Manager. Now we have 3 players to choose from. We have Dimitar Berbatov, who of course was renowned for his playing style of being arguably a very lazy player and not being probably the most determined player in the world. We also have Mark Viduka, who's kind of a bit of a middle of the road player. Of course, if you're quite young, you may not have any idea who any of these players are, but we've got Berbatov, Viduka, and we've also got Park Ji-Sung, arguably a bit of a Manchester United legend. Certainly has a special place in my heart as a Man U fan, of just trying his heart out all the time and always trying his best and just being like the most determined player you could ever probably come across when it comes to determination, work rate, all of those good stuff. So in terms of 3 players, they're at Spurs, United and Leeds, all former teams that these players would have played for when they were around. And I wanted them all to be in the Premier League. They all play the same position of attack, midfield or striker. They're all the same height, same weight, same age, all of that good stuff. With Berbatov here, you can see his attributes. He has all the attributes of a very decent striker, except his determination is sitting at 1. If I was to then compare him, say, Mark Viduka, for example, you can see all of his attributes here. His determination, however, is sitting at a 10. If I then actually go and compare him up against Berbatov on here, if we look at their attributes, they are exactly the same everywhere across the board, except that determination attribute. And if we then go and look at the final player in Park Ji-Sung, if we go and do the same thing, let's go and compare him, say, Mark Viduka, again, identical across the board, except for the 20 determination that Park Ji-Sung has. Now, the reason I want to do this, I want to see just actually how much impact this determination has and if it can really achieve anything spectacular with certain players or not. With the players in general, I have the in-game editor allowed so we can actually see them here. If I go actually look at the player, just so you can have a look, if we go and look at his attribute details on here and go to his general, he has a current potential ability of 190. His current is sitting at 120. If we go and have a look at as well, say Dimitar Berbatov, it is exactly the same with him as well. 120 current ability, 190 potential, and again that is identical for Mark Viduka. So if we have 3 identical players in every single aspect, excluding that determination, what difference does it make on their careers? So we're going to go 5, 10, 15 years and see exactly what takes place. So I'm going to simulate 3 now guys, and I'll see you at 5 years time to see just what's going on for these 3 players. Here we are then now at the 5-year point, the first stop on our determination experiment at the 1st of June 2025. Let's go straight into our shortlist and let's see what's going on with these 3 players' careers. We go shortlist player, shortlist on here. We've got Berbatov, Viduka and Park Ji-Sung. Straight away I can already see Mark Viduka has left Leeds and he has gone to Newcastle. Of course, for those of you who know who Mark Viduka is, he actually played for Newcastle as well as Leeds. So A bit of a weird one that he's chose to go to one of his former clubs as well. I do have, by the way, with Viduka, I have his information set up, so he's a supporter of Middlesbrough and Leeds. I didn't put Newcastle, so I don't know why he's chosen to go there, but apparently that's where he's gone to. But even so, we'll go through Berbatov first of all, and then we'll look at the others. So Dimitar Berbatov, how has he gone on? So first of all, I can always see his determination has actually gone up from a 1 to a 3. So he's increased that a little bit. His physicals have gone up a lot, actually. That is very interesting to see. His value's massively gone up. Of course, he's now 23. He's played a lot of times for Bulgaria. He does look like he's becoming quite a decent striker. He's also been trained to play as a right winger and a left winger since we last saw him. Of course, he was only as an AMC or a striker last time. How's he done in terms of his career stats? So first season he played once for Spurs, did very, very little. Had a loan over at Atlanta over in the MLS, did okay. Did nothing the following season on his return to Spurs, then went on loan to Schalke. Didn't do very much over in the Bundesliga. Of course, the real life Berbatov did actually play for Leverkusen, so he did actually play in the Bundesliga, so there's that. He then went back to Spurs, and he's done so little. He's now 23. To have only played 22 times for Spurs and scored a whole 4 times for them in that time. Not great stuff from Berbatov, I will be honest. So far it looks like his career isn't really taking off. What's his current ability sitting at the moment? If we go on to his general, he's at 156 for his current ability. So he's gone up from a 120 to a 156. Let's have a look then now at Viduka and see what he's done in comparison. So straight away, physically, he looks really, really good. Mentally as well, his determination's gone up by 1 as well. Much like Berbatov, he's been trained to play on both wings as well. This time around, he's a left-sided player rather than a right-sided player. But overall, I'd say he looks slightly better overall. How's his stats got on if we look at him? So he started at Leeds, went on loan to DC United over in the MLS, did all right. He then carried on at Leeds for a little while, did okay, nothing kind of spectacular, got relegated by the looks of it with Leeds, then went back up again. And then Newcastle have just bought him for £78 million. I'm going to presume there's no Mike Ashton at Newcastle. I can't imagine he's been spending that type of money. But 38 played, 12 goals. He's done okay. That's a lot of money. I don't know if they're playing him as a winger or as a striker or in behind the striker. But yeah, fair play, Mark Viduka. That's a lot of money. That is one hell of a lot of money. That really, really is. If we compare him to Berbatov, how are they looking in comparison? So technically, now Viduka is getting a little bit stronger the same physically, so that determination is working out. And the mental side of his game, Viduka is far and away a lot better than Berbatov. A whole 1 on average better. And you can see just there, of course, the determination does obviously help that. But even so, he is dramatically better. How good is he in terms of his current abilities? If Berbatov was a 156, if we go to his player attributes, he's a 169, so he's 13 ability higher than Berbatov, and that's only within 5 years. Okay, Mark Viduka. Sounds like he's definitely doing a lot better. Finally, then, let's go and have a look at Park Ji-Sung. Let's see what he's doing. So, physically already, Park Ji-Sung looks phenomenal. Mentally brilliant. And technically very good as well. His determination has dropped on 20 to 17. That often is the case with AI players. They do choose them sometimes a bit weirdly, and then it can cause it to drop, as is what has probably happened with Park here. But he looks like a really, really good striker. Only the age of 23, doing very, very well. What about his career stats? So with Park, at the beginning he didn't do very much. Went on loan to League One Hull, did okay. Had a little spell here and there with Man U playing the odd game. Went on loan to Atlanta, much like Berbatov did this time the second season. And he played 13, got 8 goals. Had a much better year than what Berbatov did. Then he's actually become a bit of a first teamer for Manchester United. Actually quite surprising. This year especially, he has really kicked on. 38 played for Man U, 20 goals, average rating of 7.44. That is some pretty good stuff. I'm going to presume I must be playing him then as a striker. That is very good indeed. What if we compare him to Dimitar Berbatov? Far and away, absolutely superior player. Look at the state of all that green on that there. Every single attribute other than his bravery is the only thing that Berbatov is any better at than Park. Nut stuff. What if you do the same with Viduka? Again, he's overall a better player. There's very little that actually Viduka does better Park on, all things considered. Looking very, very good indeed. How's his current ability? I'm going to presume it must be higher than the 156 and the 169 of Viduka and Berbatov. We have a look on here. He's a 181 already, so he's almost at his potential ability, and he's only 23. So fair play to Park, showing straight away how good that determination really does affect players. But of course, that's the end of the 5-year period. We're going to continue on now to the 10 years, and we'll see what's going on at that period as well. So I'll see you all there very shortly. Here we are then now at the 10-year period here on June 2030. Let's get straight into our shortlist and let's see what these three players are now doing at their respective clubs. So Berbatov has moved, Viduka has moved, and actually Park's moved. They've all moved clubs over the course of the last 5 years. Wasn't expecting that, and I can also see their values are all really, really high as well. Of course, they're all now 28 years of age, arguably in their prime of their career. So let's go and look straight away at Berber. Let's see how he's got on. So I'd say, to be honest, looking at Berber, not much has changed about his player. His determination has gone up by 1, but by looks at it, very, very little else has actually changed in terms of his attributes. He's on a big fat wage, mind you, over at Nice. How has he got on over there in Ligue 1? So, of course, we left him in 2025. He then had a couple of more seasons at Spurs, again doing very, very little. Only scored another 5 goals and played barely any games, another 26 overall. Then Nice bought him for £33 million 3 seasons ago. And it looks like he's doing quite well over there in Ligue 1. All things considered, he's played 102 games and he's then scored 40 goals. So he's kind of about a 1 in 2 man, maybe just under that. His average rating's pretty decent, so he looks like he is having a good time over there in Nice. But he could never make it in the Prem by the looks of it. And he's now gone to France, and maybe it's starting to begin to click for him as he gets on towards the later stage of his career. Let's have a look though at his current ability. What is he standing at now? Of course, he was a 159 last time out. He's a 162, so he's barely gone up. He's definitely not going to be getting anywhere near that 190 potential. That is for sure. Bit of a shame, really, but he has still had a decent career so far. And of course, we're going to go another 5 years and see exactly what happens in those last few years at the prime of his career. What about Viduka? Now at Liverpool, he's definitely moving about a lot, his old Mark Viduka. Looks very good. Really, really good players on 300 grand a week. Flipping heck. His physicals are great, his mentals are fantastic, and also his technicals are pretty decent as well. Apparently he's now a natural right winger. That is apparently where he has played more consistently according to the positions graph, which is interesting. In fact, he couldn't even play that at the beginning of his career, but it's where he seems to have been taught where to actually play. If we go to his stats, so on this, he was at Newcastle, he spent 2 years there, did all right there. Then Barca bought him for 94 million quid. Okay, of course, where Park currently is at the moment, we just saw him with his name against Barca on there. He then had a good time over in La Liga. Not fantastic. I presume they were playing him as a winger or attacking midfielder because he hasn't got that many goals, but his average rating is phenomenally high. And then Liverpool just paid £104 million and he's then played 31 and got 9 goals on his debut season back in the Prem. Nutty figures there. They are some crazy figures that clubs are buying Viduka for. He looks really good, mind you. He really, really does at 28. What's his current ability sitting at? He's sitting at a 180. So again, much like what we saw with Park last time at a 5-year gap, now at the age of 28, Viduka's pretty much getting to the best he can be. Now, let's compare him with Berbatov. Let's just see how good the comparison is. And yeah, Viduka is far and away better than old Berbatov. His technicals are a lot better. His mentals are better overall. Of course, the determination is always going to be a lot higher, but still really good. And physically, they're kind of similar, but there is still that notable difference between Berbatov and Viduka. Now let's look finally then at Park Ji-Sung, of course, now a Barcelona player. He looks absolutely phenomenal. He really does. He's on 375 grand a week and valued at 92 mil. That is a little bit nuts, all things considered. He looks so good. He really, really does. 85 times played for South Korea, 58 goals. In terms of his stats then, so at Man U, of course, that was the season we saw him at last, 20 goals in 38, then 17 in 38, 17 in 31, a really, really good year. His average rating is really, really high. And he went to Barcelona, and what is that figure? Oh my days, £310 million. What on earth is that? That is insane. I've never seen a figure that high. That is bonkers. I thought the other day on my Twitch stream with Norwich, we had as players sold for 200 mil that we sold to her to Berlin. And I thought that was insane. £310 million. That is bonkers. Even so, he's done well. I don't know if he's done 300 million quid's worth of well, but the average rating is very insane. That he got 7.71 average rating that year, this season. So he does that. He's doing really, really well, but that is bonkers. That is insane. Nutty stuff. What is current ability at the moment? If we go on to here, let's have a look. So he's actually 190. So he has hit his maximum ability at the age of 28. So with that 20 determination he had at the start, he has capped out at 190. So fair play to Park. Basically, this is as good as he's probably going to get. Let's compare him then to Viduka. And again, you can see the notable difference between them. There's a few little areas that Viduka's a little bit better at, but generally speaking, he is a lot better in the majority of areas. And let's go and compare him, of course, to Dimitar Berbatov. I think this to be far and away better. Yep, that is there's no comparison. There is there. The only thing that they have equal is penalty taking, and then there's a few areas of the mentals, not many, and then there's jumping reach, which doesn't really ever change, and natural fitness, which again doesn't really ever change. So yeah, okay, Park, you're proving your point that high determination does you very, very well, that is for sure. But that is, of course, the end of year 10. We've seen some... I can't believe that transfer figure of £310 million. That's just completely blown me away. But let's proceed then to year 15. They'll be in their mid-30s at that point. And let's see quite what happens with these players at year 15. So I'll see you all there very shortly. Here we are then at year 15. The final point of our experiment to see what has happened after 15 years with these players and see where they have ended up and what is going on with their current abilities and everything along those lines. Let's go into our shortlist and let's see what they are up to now. Berbatov is still at Nice. Viduka is at Bournemouth, rather weirdly. And Park is still at Barcelona. In terms of the values, Park Ji-Sung looks like he's having a very good time. The other two, not quite so much, I will be completely honest with you. Let's go straight into Dimitar Berbatov though. So with Berbatov, to be fair to him, he doesn't look too dissimilar to where we last left him. His physicals have dropped a little bit because you'd expect that as a player gets older into the latter periods of their game. But everything else looks relatively similar to where we left him. How has he got in terms of his history and everything like that? So of course, he had 3 seasons at Nice when we last came along, so he's been there for the rest of his time, and it looks like he was basically their best striker and was banging in goals for fun over there in Ligue 1. And in last season, this season, he has kind of dropped off, as probably beginning to phase out of his career now. But you've got to sit there and say a very decent return for Nice. They paid 33 million quid, and he scored a lot of goals for them, played a lot of games, good average ratings. Fair play to old Dimitar. How is he getting on in terms of his ability though? Is he actually still any better or is he any worse? I presume he's got to be worse really. If we go into the player attributes, he's now down to a 144. The lowest he's been since of course the very beginning of the save. But even so, at 33, that's not bad at all. Okay, so that's Berbatov. What about Viduka? Because his value's really dropped. He's now at Bournemouth. Because last time we saw him was at Liverpool. He's been at Barcelona, a place like that. So technicals and mentals. Mentals are really good, actually. His technicals aren't great now. His physicals are really dodgy. They really, really are. I'm going to guess he's maybe had an injury or he just isn't playing very much, because he's really, really dropped off, that is for sure. History-wise, so of course, we saw him at the year he joined Liverpool for £104 million. Then he then had another couple of years with them, did all right. And in the last few years, he started to drop off. And then he's just signed for Bournemouth this season and done barely anything for them whatsoever. Really, really weird with him. Has he had a bad injury or something? If we have a look at him... Oh, yes, okay, the answer to that question is he has had a lot of injuries. So that may be why his physicals have dropped off quite so bad. That would probably explain that reason. If I compare Viduka, though, to Berbatov, for once, the very first time I think it's ever happened... Berbatov is actually better than one of the other players. Technically, they're probably quite similar. There's a few little areas here and there. Mentally, Viduka is a lot better, but the physical side of their game, Berbatov is still a lot better at the age of 33. But again, I think that's more due to the effect of the injuries he's had in the last period of his career rather than the determination. Because you can see the mentals, they're still a lot better, and I think the technicals are as well. Both the case with them though, they're not really playing very much. What is Viduka's actual ability at the moment though? If we go to his general, he's down to a 127, so he's almost back to level he actually started at the very beginning of this experiment. Again, I think that's more linked to the injury side of his game rather than anything else. But even so, both of them have dropped off quite considerably to where we last saw them. Now, what about Park? Of course, Park had 20 determination. I think it was 17 at the last point we saw him because it had dropped down just naturally over time. What is Park going to be doing at? His value is still really high at Barca, so I'm going to guess he's still playing. Let's have a look. Okay, yeah, Park is still insane. That is insane, actually. How far superior Park is to the other two players, even at the age of 33. It shows what can happen if your determination stays really high. Because he's obviously started to keep himself going and keep playing. How's he done career-wise? So, of course, we saw him in his first season with his £310 million deal. I think it was the first one. I can't remember now. But, yeah, oh, no, it was this season, wasn't it? The 2030 season. But, yeah, he's continued on his rich vein of goal scoring, hasn't he, in his average ratings. He's played every season other than one. He's had over 30 games. He's scored 20 goals in every season except for this year. His average rating's always been over a 7.5 as well. So yeah, Park Ji-Sung, even at 33, is still phenomenally good. Most likely affected by that high determination that he does have. How is he getting on in terms of his current ability? To have a little look and just see. So on the general, he's a 183. So he's only dropped by 7 ratings. That is bonkers over the course of that 5 years to be that consistently good and at that high of a level despite his age. Phenomenal stuff there from Park Ji-Sung. I've also seen he's played 103 games for South Korea and scored 77 goals. Fair play to Park. Fair play indeed. Really, really top stuff from there. And what if we actually compare Park to the likes of Berbatov? He's going to be far... Look at the state of that. Look at that. Other than bravery, nothing on there is beaten by Berbatov. It's crazy how good Park actually is. What about if we compare him to Viduka? The same again, actually. Bravery and composure, the only thing that Park lacks over Viduka. Crazy stuff. Absolutely bonkers. That really, really is. Just nutty how good he is, honestly. But though, guys, that does just about wrap up this determination experiment here today. And I think we can safely say, looking over those players, high determination does massively impact player growth, players' overall careers, really, just how well they play on the pitch and everything on those lines. The fact we saw with Park, he was so good. The fact he capped out that potential, he was the only one of the 3 players to hit that potential at 190, and even at the age of 33, he's still basically as good as he was in his prime. It does say so much about just how important determination is. It's always one of those weird things when you play FM, how much does it actually matter? Apparently it matters quite a lot because Berbatov never got above, what, a 163 or 164. Viduka did get to the 180 level, but then Park just was far and away just the best of the best, and he was so consistent and he kept himself at that level as well. It really, really does show just how important it is. And guys, I really hope you have found this video here to be enjoyable, and if you have, please do go and chuck a like down onto it. And of course, guys, if you're looking forward to seeing any more of my content here on YouTube, such as any FM21 Experiment, or any more of my tactics videos or my Road to Glory series, and do make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to be notified when any of my content here on YouTube goes live. But guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again next time.